Great. So, first of all, first question, it's what I like to ask all my guests. Give me a little bit of background about yourself, not mentioning your fighting career.
I'm a big anime, Gundam. Not really a big gamer as much as I used to, but I'm a big anime fan. A lot of my stuff kind of revolves around that. If I'm not fighting, it's usually I have like a giant bookshelf filled with manga. Majority is manga, or my gunpla collection. I have about 30 or so Gundams. About half of them are built. If I'm not doing that, I'm a big music junkie too. So I'm literally just music. Like I believe I got I did my Spotify rap thing this year and it had like almost 80,000 hours on it.
Oh.
And I believe I got it roughly like, I want to say, I think March or maybe even like May this year. So tells you how much music I listen to.
If you don't mind me asking, who was on the top 5 of your Spotify yearly rap?
My top 5 were We Are the Flesh, Machine Gun Kelly, who else? Dropout Kings, Ice Nine Kills, and Quad Deca.
Oh, great. So we'll move into the MMA side of things a little bit, if you like. Tell me a little bit about your first discipline, or maybe what got you into MMA or fighting in general.
First technical discipline, wrestling. It's in high school. Everyone can here in the States, has access to learn how to wrestle. I was wrestling, and after my wrestling time ended, we had a new local gym open up in my small town, and I joined there where I learned Muay Thai and all that other fun stuff. And now, give or take 10 years later, I'm here. So, but my first one was wrestling, but I gravitated to that Muay Thai. I've always been more of a fan of Muay Thai. Growing up, I watched the movies of like Kickboxer and Bloodsport. I'm like, oh my God, that's so much cooler than choking someone out.
Great, yeah. So moving on, let's maybe get into a little bit into your career. I would argue, haven't had the easiest 2020. You had the fight cancelled in March, I believe, as COVID was, ramping up a little bit, and then you had your Dana White Contender Series opportunity. The opponent fell out on 4 days' notice, so you had a new opponent on 4 days. How satisfying was that win on the Contender Series after the year that you've had?
I mean, honestly, the year itself, I can't really say it was bad. I mean, the worst part of it was like the 4-day notice change actually was more of a relief than a nuisance, because I was more stressing on the fact that my fight got pushed back from like September to all the way to November. So I went from already like a 10-week camp to another 8-week camp. And I'm just like, dude, I'm tired. I already got like 4.5 months into this. So, and then I'm like, I want to fight already. And they're like, hey, you have a change of opponent. I'm like, you know what? Cool. And they're like, why? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like, it was a change of pace that I kind of needed, because I was stressing. I was like, oh my God. Did I do enough? I'm like, am I going to win? Am I going to lose? What's going to happen? And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. 4 days notice. We'll just go in there whipping ass, and, win or lose, I could, it's going to be good. So,
yeah. And how much of a game plan could you draw up in 4 days? Obviously, I think watching the fight, there was the first portion of it where you were standing up, and then you seemed to take him down and it seemed to be over relatively quickly. Was wrestling a part of that game plan?
Actually, no. I don't. Okay, like in the back warming up, I felt good. Like even like my teammate Jamal, who was there with me, he was like, yeah, like we watched all those videos, and they were predominantly literally all the same videos. Like it didn't seem like he really elevated or changed throughout the year. So we're like, all right, he does this. He doesn't change. He was like, he blitzes and then he goes for a shot. And I'm like, all right, cool. So in the background, I was like, bah, bah, block, die, counter. I was looking good in the back. I was doing everything right. Get in the cage. Oh. And but I the first like couple seconds we clinch up, I'm like, oh, I'm better than you in the clinch. I'm stronger, and okay, I'm gonna win here. I think that like because I was so like, oh, I'm gonna beat him in the clinch, that I was like, I don't need to worry about my stand up. But obviously that didn't work because I there could have been that reason. So I was like, oh, I'll beat him in the clinch, and the next minute I was like, oh. But then after I like regained my composure and I was like, all right, let's get serious here. I was able to get him to the ground and beat him in seconds.
Yeah. And obviously we can say this now that the fight is in the past. How hurt were you? Because it looks within the first 30 seconds or so, you seem to get rocked a little bit. Tell me a little bit about that.
Most of them were really like grazing, like they caught here. Oh, actually, I got I don't know if I posted it, but I had more bruises on my neck than I did anywhere else. So I would like roll with the punches and hit my chest.
Yeah.
So, but I watched the video myself. I watched it several times. And what I saw was this, not this, what actually took part. So visually, it looked like I got like this the whole entire thing. But most of the punches, I would say predominantly only like 3 or 4 actually made full contact. Now, those 3 or 4 punches hurt. Like, I was like, damn, like, but I wasn't rocked. But kind of like I kind of said, it could have just been I got really confident in my grappling that I was like, oh, and very foolish of me because when I was watching it, I didn't find his stand-up impressive. But I think I was more worried about his grappling, and then when I realized my grappling was better, I was like, oh, I don't need to even stand up with him. And I think that's where I, let my ego get in front of me. So yeah, I'm not gonna let that happen again because my face, shouldn't be a drum.
And another thing, obviously, the Dana White Contender Series must be quite a high pressure situation. It's one night you need to perform. How difficult did you find that, knowing that you need either a very dominant performance or preferably a finish to get that UFC contract?
I try not to think about it that much, but what really screwed me up, at first I was like, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. First round, I was like, okay, cool. I was like, first round TKO, I felt good. Then I watched the next 2 fights. Teep kick to the face, followed by another teep kick to the face. I was like, fuck. I'm like, I'm not going to get this contract. I didn't teep kick anyone in the face. I was like, damn. And yeah, so we got those 2 guys just teep kicking people. The other guy was like, Adesanya's protege, so he, there's a lot of eyes on him, and he decapitated someone. I was like, fuck, I'm not going nowhere. I'm like, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, hey, you know what? I might not be in the UFC now, but I won, so someone will pick me up eventually. So I'm like, okay, this sucks, but whatever. But then Dan White, like, hey, you cool? I'm like, oh, all right, cool.
And then looking towards the UFC, we've got your debut next Saturday, UFC 256. We've got a little bit of bad blood between you and Sergey Spivak. Maybe not majorly, but I've picked up on this story about he maybe declined to fight with you on the regional scene. Why do you think that fight never materialized?
Well, I won't call it bad blood. I don't hate the guy, or anything like that. Just, I want to know why the fight didn't, because there could have been a plethora of reasons why it didn't happen. One, he could have declined the fight. Now, based off current viewpoints, I don't see why, because he accepted that fight quick as shit. So I don't think he was scared, in all fairness. But I think maybe either his manager or his coaches might have been the reason why he didn't accept the fight.
Yeah.
Because you look at the record, you're like, okay, you strung up 10 wins, you got into the UFC. I'm like, okay, I see where you're like, maybe the goals were to get him to the UFC, then worry about losing, because if you lose in the UFC, you're losing to the best of the best. You're not going to be losing to some nobody or something like that. So I think they were trying to just, protect his record, give him some fights without necessarily giving him a potential higher chance of loss. That's what I'm kind of speculating.
Yeah.
But, you never know. He might have just been like, you know what, fuck this guy, I don't want to fight him. Like, it could just be as simple as that, too. But regardless of whatever reason, I mean, I get to fight him now, and I'm excited for that fight now. So I get to go. Babe, no. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Spoiled. No, it's one of those moments where, like, I was excited to go to Ukraine and stuff. I was like, oh my God, I get to go. I was like, I love Poland, so I figured with some of the history there might be some similarities. I was like, and it was like in winter, I'm like, oh, I get to be a part of like the Russian Ukrainian winter. Like, I was like, that is a next level cold that we're not used to in the United States. I was excited. And then it fell through. I was like, oh, fuck this guy. Ruined my dreams of going to the Ukraine.
Can I ask, have you ever fought outside the US? Or if so, how far out?
Oh, well, so shortly after that fight, I got offered to fight for EFC, Extreme Fighting Championship, out in South Africa. I fought for them about 4 times.
Yeah.
Becoming their heavyweight champion and all that stuff. So it was, I really loved it. You actually have nothing terrible to say about them. I mean, outside of the monkeys being shady as fuck, it was a very fun time. They've actually opened my eyes to going to other parts of the world that I never actually thought of. And, one of them was Abu Dhabi, and now being in the UFC, that, dream kind of becomes a reality. Like, if I get on Fight Island, I'm going to Abu Dhabi. So I'm like, damn, I nailed that one on the head pretty quick.
Well, considering at the moment, the two kinds of bases for the UFC seem to be the Apex Center in Las Vegas and Abu Dhabi, it really could be a toss-up where your next fight could be.
Yeah. It really could. So, I mean, and I believe they're going to Abu Dhabi for at least a couple months at the beginning of the year. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, just maybe if we go back to the fight on Saturday, I would argue Sergey Spivak at this point is an established UFC heavyweight. I think he's had 4 fights. I think he's gone 2-2. And we could argue his biggest win would be his submission victory over Taito Ivasa. I believe after that victory, he got a ranking with his name. He got a ranking next to his name. So with a win on Saturday, do you feel like you would be getting up towards the upper end of of your division?
Nah, I don't think I would necessarily get shot up. I think, he's a well-established name, but I don't think he's necessarily a fully established name.
Yeah.
I definitely think that, if him and Ty went at it three or four more times in a row, I would actually give my money every time to Spivak. I just think, Spivak's more equipped to fight than Ty is. Like, I don't think Ty has I think he has two tools. He has decent boxing and very powerful hits.
Yeah.
I think Spivak, he has some power, but I think he's more established as a phenomenal grappler. Like, I mean, his hands are good, but I think he's definitely stronger in the grappling department and definitely stronger than Ty in that department. So I wouldn't say beating Spivak would put me into that title picture, or not title picture, but that like contender picture. It just, I think any heavyweight could be any heavyweight. I mean, even the top 5 are, somewhat reasonably, like, they have ways to be beaten. They're harder to get to them. Like, I mean, I think, like, for example, I think because Francis is in a sense one-dimensional, you just gotta survive the death touch. And it's like, as much as it's easy to say, the actual survival of the death touch is only been technically done by, I think, 2 guys ever. So, I mean, I just think if I beat him, it'll just put my name into the mix of like, hey, potential up and comers. And, I would, if I string 2 or 3 wins, then I would be like, now I could be like, I'm a contender in the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
I think, yes, I could beat Spivak, and that's the plan, is to beat him. Outside of that, I won't consider myself any better or any less than he is or half the people on the roster. I just beat one dude. I have to beat a lot of people to really like prove my worth.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose as well, I don't want to sound derogatory, but heavyweight isn't the most loaded division. I think that's fair to say. It's quite a shallow division. So perhaps what I was getting at there with that question is it's quite easy to maybe move up them ranks, and as you say, in 3 or 4 fights with impressive wins or maybe finishes, you can be getting up there.
Yeah, no, I was offered a fight with Rosenstruck before he got called into the UFC. Like, my manager at the time was like, dude, we're not taking the fight. And I'm like, why? I feel like you'd beat him. He goes, it's not that. It's he was caught cheating in his Risen fight. I'm like, oh, that is dirty. He goes, yeah, no, if you cheat in Risen, you fucked up. And I'm like, well, I mean, and then I'm like, why did you bring it to the table? He goes, I really wasn't trying to bring it to the table. I just wanted to tell you that's who they're offering you. And then, like, a week later, he gets announced that he was fighting somebody. And I'm like, I couldn't take the fight if I wanted to. And then he went, 4 fights until he ran into Francis?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, the division's not that deep. You can just go 4 fights and then be talked about in the title picture after 4 fights, 4 or 5 fights. I'm like, and I mean, the only other division that's kind of similar like that is the light heavyweight division. One of my teammates, Dominic, he shot up to the title picture in, I think, 4 fights, 4 or 5 fights.
Tom Reyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, the light heavyweight and the heavyweight are not that deep, but personally, I'm not in no rush to go to that like, just shoot to the top of the division. And I mean, it sucks though. One of the fighters that I was hoping to fight would have been Verdum, and he went to PFL, so that's out of the cards for me. And that takes out one big name. But I think a lot of people are. I think with the heavyweight division, a lot of people are overlooking actually how scary it's becoming.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's a weak division, it's weak this, and it's like yeah, it's not necessarily the strongest, like in terms of when it comes to like size wise, but I think there's going to be a step of a lot of competitors that a lot of people are just kind of overlooking. Like you got that I want to say Romanian dude. He fought like 2-3 weeks ago. He just tossed gold or that Brazilian cat.
Is he
I bet.
Romanov?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's Romanov. Yeah, he done the judo toss, and then I think
Yeah,
handed them out.
judo, sambo, wrestling. One of the grappling sports. You got him. One Espinoza, who just fought. My gosh, the guy lights out. God, I'm bad with names. I'm terrible with names.
Is that
But
what Juan Espino?
Yeah, Juan Espino. I think he's someone a lot of people might be overlooking too. I mean, I just think the heavyweight division has some scary people on the lower ranks of it. They're like, oh, I'm like, well, give some of these guys some attention. There's that Chris Darkus cat,
Yeah,
who's fighting Alexia Lennox, I think in February or March.
yeah,
I'm like, that guy's good too.
yeah.
That's gonna be a fun fight. But I'm just saying like there's a lot of heavyweights out there that they're not going to just be like oh, I could go in there and beat them and like in hopes of like, oh, I have that knockout power or this and that. No, you're getting actually good, scary heavyweights that have knockout power and skill and cardio, making it for more of a dynamic fight. I mean, look, another example is Tanner Bosner. He lost against Orlovsky. I think that guy still has a lot to do. You got freaking who's fighting Dos Santos? Gone. He's another newcomer, and yet he's making a giant splash. I think there's a lot in the heavyweight division that a lot of people are overlooking because you don't have a lot of star power in the heavyweight division. You don't have take away the star power, you have a lot of monsters in the heavyweight division. You just don't have a lot of people that are like, oh, like you don't have a lot of Derek Lewis's in the heavyweight division besides Derek Lewis. I mean, I like Stipe, but Stipe doesn't draw people to the heavyweight division. He's not the biggest draw. I actually think DC was a bigger draw, and he's not the biggest star power kind of guy either. He murdered people.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's maybe the biggest obstacle the heavyweights are facing. It's not that there's monsters, and honestly, I don't think I'm going to have an easy road to the top. I look at all these guys and I have like the utmost respect for them. And even with Sergey, I'm like, he beat Ty. I think that would. I'm like even Ty has his own merits and credit for how dangerous he is. But the heavyweight division is not going to be a walk to the top anymore. I think there's a lot more scarier guys in there, and you're finding that the lesser fighters are getting cut a lot faster.
Yeah. And maybe one more name I'd just like to bring to your attention because it was somebody that you mentioned yourself, Tom Aspinall.
Yeah. Tom is another good example. I only want to fight him because he's training Darren Till. Like he's good too. Like I'm not knocking his skill, but I'm a Darren Till fan, and I don't know. Like English accents to me are the best. Like I was when I was fighting the Dana White Contender Series, I was listening to Biz Bing. I was like, I felt like there was no love for me, but I was like, it's okay. It's Bisping. I'm like, but Bisping, I'm a fan. Don't get mad at me for where I train at and what my coaches did to you. That was between you and him. I'm still a fan.
Well, funny you should mention Darren Till. Me and Darren, I'm from Liverpool. It's just the same place Darren Till's from. We have that strong. I'm trying to tone it down a little bit, but we do have a strong accent.
I like it. Like it's one it's pleasing to hear.
And something you just mentioned then that I did want to touch on, training at Dan Henderson's athletic fitness centre. What's it like to be under the tutelage of a legend like Dan Henderson?
It's not bad, but he's a very quiet person. Like, he says like 10 words to you, like, here, do this, why you do this, and that's it. You're like, okay. And then he's just like, yeah, okay. And it's like, all right, well, he's definitely a guy that when he sees something wrong, he won't shy away from helping you. But he's not that fighter that's going to turn into a big time coach. He's just one of those guys that if he obviously sees something wrong, he's going to help out. But he's not going to sit there and just be like, okay, I'm going to coach all day.
Yeah.
And, I actually respect that from the guy because, like, you see a lot of these fighters that are coaches, but they're like, oh, I'm a fighter. I know everything about fighting. And I'm going to tell you to do the same thing that I did because it worked for me. And it's like, it doesn't work for you. It doesn't work. Like, what works for me will not maybe work for you, or vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think he realizes that. And I think he kind of knows his place where it's like, I want to help out when I can and when I can actually bring some information to the table.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I think that's perfectly fine. And he has other people that he thinks are more qualified to teach us stuff. And, that's cool too.
Yeah. I know that one of the grappling coaches is Joe Stevenson, and I know that one of the striking coaches is Tarek Safadine. So you do have as well as Dan being that, leader, if you like. You do have the experts in the striking and the grappling department there as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love Dan, but you got Joe, who's good at jiu-jitsu. It's to the point where it's stupid. You look at him, you're like, I could take him, and then you're like, and then you got Tarek, who's just a hair quicker than me, just fucking hair. Me and him, we were sparring. We were just it looked more like a kick sparring session than anything. I love Tarek, but he a little. He's 170 normally. He fights at 170. He walks around at 170. So I'm not trying to kill Tarek. So I'm trying to keep up with him. And then it was like the last 10 to 30 seconds. We're like, da, 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 like match and kick for kick. I'm going. Dan happens to be walking by this today. He goes, last kick wins. I was like, oh. And we just start just turning it up. I'm like, da, da. And then the bell rings. And then Tarek's foot just goes right across my nose. Just like, fuck. I almost won.
I suppose you're always going to be at a disadvantage with a smaller weight class fighter that might have that speed advantage.
Barely, though.
Barely.
I barely lost. I set up that last kick. I was like, I'm going to win. I'm like, oh.
So we're looking towards this fight on Saturday. And on your record, I notice you have 11 wins and you have 10 finishes. And of your previous 5 wins, 4 of them have been 4 of your last 5 wins have been KOs or TKOs. Should the fans watching on Saturday expect a finish?
I don't like to say expect a finish because I feel like I on paper I finish, but I just don't feel like I finish people. Like, because I don't know, maybe because in the like the gym that I train at, I'm not always trying to like I have a lot of finish moments, but I just never like either capitalize on them or they're like a submission, and we just continue on. Like I get a submission, and if it's a position I want to like continue working, or my partner wants to continue working, get my submission. He goes, okay, let's start over, and then we just beat each other up from there, or we'll immediately just start back up and boom, boom, boom. And half the time I don't realize I've actually just finished the fight, but because it's in the practice room, we could just continue. So I don't like telling people I'm a finisher, even though on paper I have like a 92% finish rate, something like that. So, I mean, yes, there's a good to fair chance that I would finish the fight. Half the reason why I tried to finish the fight, because I don't believe judges like me. Because two of my fights that I lost, I honestly thought I won. Like I legitimately thought I won those fights. My opponents thought I won those fights. So, you know, I definitely think, you know, I should have been a little bit higher, but like Dana has always said, don't ever leave the, you know, fight in the judge's hands. And yeah, it screwed me over at least 2 times. And so I'm just like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. I don't like to leave it in the hands of the judges. Even if I decide to beat Sergey and beat his head like a drum, there's always my like one judge be like, you know what? Sergey blocked very well with his face. I think he won that. You just never. If I had the chance to finish, I would take the chance. And if, let's say, I'm doing some ground and pound or like just beating him up and he's not defending, yeah, I would aim for the finish. But I'm not going to be like, yeah, we're going to finish. I think this fight's going to either end in the first round or it's going to go to the decision. That's my personal beliefs on this one.
Yeah. Perhaps that might have been a biased question from me, considering we're talking about heavyweights. There's naturally going to be a higher finish rate, isn't there? You know, it's a bigger fist, but not that much bigger of a head. It's, you know.
No, you are absolutely right. Like most heavyweights have, like, they're like the highest finish rate. But yeah, no, I like Sergey. I think he's durable. Like he's durable. So I don't think it's going to be an easy day out for me. Like, oh, I'm not going to be like da. Oh, he got knocked out. Yay! I actually do respect his chin a lot. So
Yeah. And if we're talking about the heavyweight division, you mentioned then about a slight little bit of disappointment that Fabricio Verdum had left. He'd gone to PFL. If you could be guaranteed to fight one person in your division, you know, a past legend or someone you just admire, is there anyone that sticks out? Overeem.
Yep, I want to fight him. And then he just announced that he's going to make one more stride to the title. And I'm just like, oh, you motherfucker. I was like, yo, slow down. Just take a minute. Let me catch up to you. Like, I want to be that parting way fight. I was like, I like Overeem. I'm a fan of him. So he's just one of those guys that I just like. He's always been someone I've always liked watching fighting. His kickboxing days, the Overeem days, even now, I've just always been a fan. So I definitely don't. I would like to fight him. If it's not him, that'd more or less be it. Like I'm just a big fan of Overeem. So
yeah, I suppose in previous years, Overeem has maybe become a figure that the UFC have used to try and catapult new stars from. You know, we saw the Sakai fight earlier. We saw him against Rosenstrike. He seems to be, I don't want to say gatekeeper because that's, in my opinion, a derogatory term, but he seems to be that, let's see if this prospect is now a contender fight. So you might find, depending on what happens, you could line up in 18 months, 2 years time, maybe. I'm not sure.
No, like I agree with you. Like, I mean, I actually was like, I honestly thought Saki was going to actually beat Overeem, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, I actually was really surprised that he lost. Dude's legit. And honestly, Rosenstruck did not beat Overeem. And honestly, that finish was really like kind of a weirdly questionable. I want to say it was Mark Goddard, but I could be wrong on the ref. So it's just like how he approached it, kind of made it look weird, where like Overeem was confused, like he just got hit. Rosenstruck walk off and the bell rang in. It looked like, oh, okay, I'm gonna sit down type of situation. So I'm a little up in the air on that one. Granted, Rosenstruck did split half his face open, in all fairness. So I mean, it was just, but it looked weird how it kind of all came together. And I think maybe the ref didn't step back and Overeem just kind of like bounced back up and, he would have won that fight.
Yeah. I think I've always looked at that finish and kind of thought if it was in the middle of the octagon, he may have fell, on his back. But he almost seems to hit the fence and then rebound back right into Rosenstrike. And I think the referee, I'm not sure if at that point he saw the massive cut in his lip, but maybe the referee is panicked and all of that. There's crowd noise, but there was 4 seconds left.
Yeah, like when Dominic dropped OSP in the last round, I believe that they gave him like a couple seconds to get up. If OSP didn't get up, they were going to give Dom the knockout.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like I'm not saying like Overeem could have lost. I'm just saying you should have let that 4 seconds play out. Like, because he didn't go canvas. Like, if he just canvas first, cool. I'm not going to argue with you. But he was still there enough where he could have taken a half a shot.
Yeah.
And I think, and plus, I think Rosenstruck just kind of hit him and then turned away immediately. And I think, who knows? What if Overeem was like, boom, and popped back up, like, I'm still here, motherfucker. So it was just one of those weird ones where I wasn't too pleased with the call, but that's part of the sport, though.
Yeah, there's certain fights where you hear that he didn't beat me mantra by fighters, but I think that's one that really does apply. There is when you hear Overeem go, he didn't beat me, part of he does kind of go, yeah, I might be inclined to agree with you there, Alistair.
But like you won 98% of that fight. It was just that last 2% you lost. It was just that 2% was the big loss.
Yeah. So maybe last question. We've gone for quite a while, which is great. But no, it's brilliant. The more that, for me, it's more the merrier. But the last question I maybe want to go to you. Give me a prediction for next Saturday.
Next Saturday. Second round, flying triangle.
I will hold you to that.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
I'm going straight to the betting shop now to put that on. I believe I can get 200 to 1 for Jared flying triangle in the second.
I'm just saying, like, if you ever see me throwing a triangle, I fucked up somewhere. That is not my to-go-to submission. Like, if I'm teaching it, I can teach a beautiful triangle. But if I'm throwing it, especially on, like, a heavyweight, I fucked up. Like, I screwed up. I don't even know why I'm here. Not my, not my to-go-to moves. I, like, triangles, they look pretty. If I was, like, 100 pounds lighter, I'd be like, ah. But I'm not. So triangles. If you see me throw one, you just know I fucked up somewhere. It's like, he hurt.
If I see you trying to throw a triangle next Saturday, I'll see if the in-play betting will let me cash out at whatever they'll give me.
It's like, I don't want this bet anymore.
Brilliant. So we've got your fight Saturday night. This is December 12th, UFC 256 versus Sergey Spivak. Where can people catch you on social media?
Facebook, that I don't use that much. Instagram, Twitter, that I don't use that much, and TikTok.
And what are your account names?
They should all be under Jared Vanderaa. So you can find one, you can find them all. I try to at least make it simple. It's nice that, I don't have the most common first name, and my last name, like, it's not that common either. So the two combinations just good enough for Jared Vanderaa.
Yeah.
I don't even need the official. It's just one name. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. It's the exact opposite with me, to be honest. I don't know if you follow soccer, but Liverpool, where I'm from, had a very famous striker called Michael Owen. Very famous England striker, all of that. So when I was born, when Michael Owen was coming out, it was Michael Owens. And there was were you named after Michael Owen? And it was, no, I was actually born before Michael Owen was on the scene. But whenever you try and type my name into any social media, it just comes up with Michael Owen fan pages. So
you're like, damn it. And he's from your area too?
He played. It wasn't even like he played the sport that my country follows. He was literally played for the team that's about 2 miles from my house. So
yeah, so you're going to get no shot. And I know, soccer's not the biggest sport here in the States, but I know rest of the world, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Like when the World Cup pops in, I tend to follow a little bit more. I don't usually follow most sports, but I'll follow soccer a lot.
Yeah.
Like we were betting, I think last year, or not last year, but like last World Cup, I was betting. Like a lot of people around here, because I live in Southern California, so a lot of my coworkers, teammates, friends are all Mexican, and they love soccer around here. So we just get into it. We start betting, and yeah. So I follow that a little bit more than I do any other sport outside of mine.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on. It was an honor. I will just pause the recording now